There is something men refuse to see, something ancient as fire yet as modern as the silent panic, that strikes you when a woman looks at you and, without meaning to, shakes your entire center. Something that alters your posture, your breath, your certainty. And if you don't confront it, you will repeat the same failures until they consume you.
Because there is a forbidden truth. Your value is not defined by strength, intelligence, or eloquence, but by the degree of control you hold over yourself. The Greeks understood this long before psychology gave it a name, and that truth still governs your relationships without asking for permission. What part of you collapses the moment she studies your reaction? Why does impulse roar louder than reason when the moment truly matters? And what does your silence reveal when you fail to master it? The ancients grasped something you are only beginning to understand. Masculine power does not emerge from external performance, but from internal sovereignty. It is not coldness. It is not mechanical detachment. It is not arrogance masked as superiority. It is presence. The presence that rises when a man refuses to be dragged by beauty, by uncertainty, by the emotional storms she brings to test him. The presence of the man who remains aligned while everything around him trembles. Because the modern man's greatest fall does not happen when he makes mistakes, but when he reacts too quickly, when he smiles without intention, when he speaks without anchoring himself, when he gives himself away too soon, when her silence shrinks him. It is this automatic, tiny, almost invisible reaction that exposes emotional fragility. And fragility, even disguised as politeness, is interpreted as the absence of inner leadership. But what happens when the mind stops obeying desire? The truth is brutal. Stoicism was never decorative philosophy. It was and still is a weapon. Women feel with biological precision who stands firm and who bends to impulse. They don't want a robot without emotions. They want a man who remains whole when tension attempts to dismantle him. A man who stays vertical when the energy of the interaction tries to fold him. Because Stoicism shapes the very structure that to the feminine instinct means value, strength, and trustability. It is the invisible spine that separates the common man from the unforgettable one. Nietzsche called it the highest form of will, the capacity to remain sovereign over oneself in the middle of the world's storm. Jordan Peterson described the same principle differently. Before entering chaos, a man must first build order within. In seduction, this translates into a simple formula. The more organized you are internally, the more magnetic you become externally. She feels it. She senses when she stands before a man guided by his center, not by the hunger for approval. She perceives stability, rhythm, direction, and that awakens desire. Are you ready to hear truths that hurt? Write control if you're prepared. Behind the search for stability hides a fear you know too well. The fear of appearing weak. The fear of being seen as reactive, unstable, insecure. The fear that one small slip will expose what you wish to hide. That fear is common among introspective, analytical men, yet it is precisely that fear that makes you fragile. You don't need to destroy it. You need to control the reaction it produces. This is not motivation, this is strategy. Greek strategy, not poetic but psychological. They studied desire, instinct, perception. They understood that internal discipline seduces more effectively than any line, any gesture, any display. And today you will see how that structure operates inside the female unconscious. Because strategy doesn't depend on speech, it depends on behavior, not on luck, but on control. Not on how much you talk, but on how deeply you command your own state. It works because it touches the root of desire. But what if real power wasn't in controlling another person, but in mastering the impulse to be loved? Nothing here is cliché. Nothing is shallow. Nothing is obvious. What you are about to uncover is the emotional engineering that separates the ordinary man from the man she feels, respects, and secretly desires, without fully understanding why. The path begins now. The first Stoic principle: master the reaction. There is a behavior that destroys your value before you speak a single word: the speed with which you respond. Most men react with urgency. They smile to fill silence. They speak to avoid looking shy. They justify themselves to avoid appearing wrong. It is the automatic reflex of someone addicted to approval. The female brain does not ignore this. Every accelerated gesture is interpreted as emotional dependency, as a man who reacts to the environment instead of creating his own rhythm. And a man without rhythm is disposable. Emotional haste is the signature of the insecure. He believes that filling silence, throwing words, or forcing smiles will hide what he fears she will see. But every excess reveals lack, reactivity, absence of center. When you slow down, when your gaze stops trembling, when you allow a second of stillness before you move, everything changes. It is not about being slow. It is about being intentional. It is about transmitting one message. Nothing she does has the power to make you abandon your structure. And what if silence spoke louder than 1,000 words? This is not opinion. This is biology. For thousands of years, women had to detect signals of emotional stability to survive unpredictable environments. The instinct is still alive. In 2019, researchers at the University at Buffalo found that male emotional regulation is perceived as social and reproductive competence. In simple language, to the feminine instinct, the stable man is the capable man. Short answers, neutral presence, lack of exaggerated emotion, all of it communicates maturity. She doesn't need you to say you are solid. She feels it. And what truly impacts her is contrast. When she provokes, you observe. When she tests, you analyze. When she tries to pull you into emotional chaos, you remain upright. That is where the break happens, where you stop being common, where she realizes something rare. She does not control your emotional state. Scientific evidence confirms what the ancients already knew. In 2020, UCLA researchers concluded that emotionally stable individuals are perceived as more attractive because they generate a sense of secure predictability. This reduces anxiety and elevates value. Predictability is not perfection. It is consistency. Consistency in tone, consistency in posture, consistency even when tension rises. The essential technique of this Stoic pillar is gradual response. It is not just waiting before answering. It is transforming that delay into silent authority, neutralizing micro-expressions, reducing anxious movements, speaking less but giving weight to every word. The pause becomes your ally. It regulates energy. It creates magnetism. It establishes the feeling that you enter the moment by choice, not by emotional demand. And what if fear were the most common disguise of desire? The second pillar, strategic indifference. This is where most men get lost. They confuse indifference with coldness. They try to look distant, inaccessible, untouchable. But coldness does not seduce. It only exposes insecurity coated in ice. Strategic indifference is something else. It is not about withdrawing. It is about refusing to sell yourself too cheaply. You show interest without urgency. You are available without being at her disposal. This delicate equilibrium creates magnetism. Female behavior does not respond to what you feel. It responds to what you prioritize. Evolutionary psychology names this the opportunity cost. Every woman evaluates whether investing in you leads to loss or advantage. The easier you give yourself, the less valuable you become. And what is cheap loses value quickly. In 2012, David Buss demonstrated precisely this. Men who are overly available are perceived as less desirable, not because women crave games, but because immediate availability suggests few options, low selectivity, and absence of purpose. Your transformation begins when you understand you are not competing for her attention, you are filtering yours. When you choose where your energy goes, your psychological value rises. She feels when your life has direction, depth, and boundaries. She senses when she is not the center of your existence. And the moment she realizes that, something shifts inside her. She must reposition herself. That repositioning awakens desire, not because you reject her, but because you refuse to bend your spine. When a man keeps his axis, he forces the feminine mind to recalibrate. If he does not need me, why do I want to get closer? What happens when a man stops seeking approval and begins to observe? In 2015, Stanford researchers found that individuals driven by purpose are perceived as more attractive and trustworthy. Purpose communicates stability, and stability is a primal trigger for female desire. When you speak of your goals without trembling, when you state your boundaries without apologizing, when your life does not orbit around her, you awaken an ancient instinct, the instinct to follow the man who leads his own reality. The Stoic rule of prioritization turns this into practice. Prioritize your schedule, your commitments, your rituals, without seeking permission. Many men sacrifice their mission to please a woman who has not yet invested anything in them. That sacrifice is not kindness, it is self-betrayal. Priority creates value. Total availability destroys it. When you refuse to abandon your plans out of fear of losing her, you become the kind of man she refuses to lose. Strategic indifference is not disinterest. It is deep self-governance. It is the understanding that you are in the game because you choose to be, not because you need to be. And that emotional autonomy forms a presence no woman ignores. From here on, she no longer sees you as a man searching for validation. She sees a man whose energy carries weight, direction, purpose, and from that moment, desire does not need to be forced. It emerges on its own. And what if silence spoke louder than 1,000 words? The third pillar, the aura of the unbreakable man. What separates the unforgettable man from the replaceable one is not physical strength, beauty, or social skill. It is how he responds to the unexpected. Most men crumble at the slightest shift. A late message, a sudden mood change, a competitor in sight, a comment that stirs insecurity. But these details say nothing about her. They reveal everything about you. When you fracture over small things, the feminine unconscious detects fragility. And emotional fragility is danger. Her chaos cannot coexist with yours. The essence of Stoicism begins with an acceptance. You control almost nothing. Not her mood, not her choices, not her past. But you control yourself, and that is enough. Harvard's research confirms this. Men who regulate their amygdala, the center of emotional reactivity, radiate authority and safety. Regulation is not aesthetic. It is biological. It is a signal of internal leadership. The more stable you are, the more you influence how she breathes, perceives, and reacts in your presence. One of the most dangerous illusions is believing that female desire is born from intensity. It isn't. It is born from stability. A woman bonds with the man who stays whole when she shifts, with the man who does not rise and fall with her emotional waves, with the man who does not oscillate when she tests, provokes, or pushes limits. Stability is not lack of emotion. It is refusing to let emotion command behavior. When she changes the climate, you maintain your rhythm. When she presses, you hold your axis. When she attempts to decenter you, you remain composed. This generates respect. And respect is the foundation of female desire. In 2016, the University of British Columbia proved that male expressions of calm and contained pride dramatically increase perceived attractiveness. It is not loud laughter, not exaggerated expressiveness. It is steady silence, firm presence, a gaze that does not tremble. All of it communicates one thing. You are not at the mercy of the environment. You are in control of yourself. The Stoic anchoring ritual turns this pillar into embodiment. Deep breathing for 30 seconds, slowing the body, reducing reactive impulses, silently repeating the principle, I hold my axis. Everything else is noise. Adjusting posture, chest open, chin neutral, movements intentional. Your posture becomes a silent declaration of emotional authority. When you enter with this structure, you do not seduce, you attract. The aura of the unbreakable man is not fabricated. It is forged from a single principle. You do not bend, you do not break, you do not absorb another person's chaos. And when a woman senses that her instability cannot shake you, something primal awakens within her. This is where Stoicism stops being philosophy. This is where it becomes living magnetism. This is where the rare man is born. But what happens when love becomes a form of control? But here lies the truth most men never dare to face. Power in relationships is never forged in noise, seduction tricks, or performance. It is forged in the quiet places of the mind where impulse is confronted and desire is disciplined. She does not follow the man who tries to impress her. She follows the man who governs himself. When your emotions are not for sale, when your presence does not tremble under beauty, when your rhythm does not change to avoid losing her, you become the rarest figure in her psychological world, a man she cannot move, yet cannot forget. And that is why the Greeks were right. Self-control is not repression. It is strategy. It is dignity. It is the architecture of masculine value. A man who regulates his inner world reshapes every room he enters. A man who does not react becomes the one she quietly studies. A man who chooses his silence becomes the one she respects before she desires. And in the end, as Machiavelli warned, he who masters his own mind masters the world, and he who does not becomes a slave to his desire.